Greetings and salutations, friends. Eric and Mark here for another episode of League on Luck. It's a special one. We're counting down the top 10 players from the spring split in the LCK. We already did NA, we did EU, we did 11 for those because it was the 11th LCS split. There's been a bunch of LCK splits. The title changes every year, so we're just sticking to top 10.
We'd be here forever if we were gonna do for how many seasons the LCK has been around. So let's just stick to the classic top 10, fire it off.
Yeah, we'd be doing so many that blank would probably make the list. So we don't want to go that far. So let's get into the nitty gritty with the top 10 and start off with number 10, where we got some guy who didn't make the playoffs, but he's still on the list because his season was so fantastic. We're talking about Teddy on the Jin Air Green Wings. This guy, any win that they got, he was hard carrying. So
absolutely. This
is good.
Teddy, at the beginning of the season, was the guy for Jin Air Green Wings, and then throughout the rest of the split, he was absolutely their method to get a victory here. Not enough to make the playoffs, so that's why you see Teddy falling down here. But this guy in lane was so dominant in how he pressured the other opponents. Really good work here. Look at that damage percentage that he's had, and the kill share percentage that he's getting for Jin Air really shows that he's one of the top guys there and pushing the pace for them. Teddy, a great split for him.
Yeah, he was the basically sole win condition for Jin Air in a lot of these games. It was getting him super ahead. You saw early on he was popping off on things like the Vayne, all these hyper carry champions, and yeah, I mean, he was a guy who's been rumored to go to some of the upper tier teams in the LCK. There was a kind of SKT meme rumor a little bit early on, but let's be honest, Bang had a fantastic split himself. Teddy's not going to SKT. He'll probably stay on Jin Air because really, the top tier LCK teams, they don't really need an upgrade at AD carry because they already have some world-class players.
Yeah, and Teddy, one of the things that you do need to say that he did really well for Jin Air this split was farm. He was a CS god. Yeah. Picking up the absolute flame horizons, picking up 100 CS over his opponents. Huge performances from him.
Yeah, he also led the league in CS per minute. I think it was around 11.6, which is pretty absolutely absurd. Let's slide on to number 9 because it's a man who looks just so fine. And it's a guy who's been around for what seems like an eternity. We're talking about Score in the jungle for KT Rolster, the longest standing member of KT Rolster, and it's not even close.
Yeah,
not even close.
Score needs to secure this spot in the list because Score had a split that was better than a lot of the ones that we've seen from him before, and that he actually looked like the jungler that was finally going to be able to capture a home title, something that actually mattered and had huge value behind it, but just not enough this split to do it. I found that when he was working best here was when KT was truly starting towards the end of the split to utilize Rush and to be able to give Score that advantage of finding out the pathing in a series really allowed him to excel. I think Score, in a total veteran here, is provided another strong split.
Yeah, in his early game, you see the numbers here, that first blood rate. More than every second game, he's securing that for you, which is pretty absurd. And yeah, talking specifically about that SKT series where Rush played the first couple of games, you saw him come in and just completely dumpster blank after seeing his pathing and stuff like that. So very cerebral player, and he's been around for so long. 25 years old is like 50 years old in esports age. So he's been around a while, a wily old veteran, and he still is one of the top performing junglers, not only in the LCK, but in the entire world. So number 9, pretty good, not bad.
A total rock for KT. Hey, number 9, nothing to be ashamed of.
Nothing to be ashamed of. Neither is number 8 on this list, and he's one of the many members that we're going to see from the King's Own Dragon X's, the King's Own Dragon X's. We're talking about Gorilla, who is one half of that Prey Gorilla bottom lane. The lowest ranking of the King's Own members, but spoilers, there's a lot of them on this list. And Gorilla, the only support on this list, and deservedly so, I'd say.
Yeah, you definitely have to think about that because there were only one other support that you might have said this split could have been up there in that list, and that would have been Tucson, but it has to be Gorilla. His ability to support his members on King's Zone is unbelievable. The things that he's able to do, it's just so great. The thing that you think about with supports, and one of the things that is so important, is the vision that they provide. Now, Gorilla doesn't actually do that better than some of the other supports in the region, but what he does do is, due to the pressure that King's Zone creates all the time, he's able to put the wards down that he does in such high value areas in the opponent's jungle that it provides such an advantage of vision for King's Zone, which allows them to keep this snowball heavy compositions, just rolling through the enemy team. Gorilla, a huge part of the Kingzone success this split.
Yeah, and like it so often happens with supports, you look at their numbers, that doesn't really tell the full story. Most of his numbers are kind of middle of the pack amongst all the other supports, especially his kill participation is actually near the bottom. But I think that's just because Peanut and Con are killing everyone themselves. He doesn't have a chance to get around.
It's hard to pick up kills on Kingzone because everyone else is getting the kills on Kingzone, man.
There's just kills around the map for that squad. Their kill-death ratio was leaps and bounds ahead of any other squad in the LCK. So Gorilla really just doesn't have as much pressure on him as, say, some of the other supports in the LCK to make plays, but still deserving of that number 8 spot.
Yeah, and the one thing that you do also want to say about Gorilla is that being paired up with Prey, it's such a deadly combo, and the best thing about that is it really frees up Gorilla to help be an initiator with Prey in lane and take down those 2v2s that they're so famous for. Really impressive stuff from the two of them.
Yeah, and when you combine those two, it's kind of like a mini Exodia in that bottom lane. Let's go to number 7. We're headed to the top lane for the first time on this list. It's another KT member. We're talking about Smeb, who has formerly been regarded as the best top laner in the world, and a couple years ago at Worlds, people were saying he's the best player coming into this tournament. Maybe not quite that high a level this split, but he is still one of the best top laners in the world.
Yes. Excuse me, I'm getting ahead of myself here. Smeb.
Khan's another one.
Smeb is absolutely, when you think about those dominating top laners in the LCK, it's Khan, it's Smeb, but Smeb here finds himself in this spot because he wasn't able to get to that final level that he's been trying to. You have to give KT Rolster, and especially Smeb in that top lane, credit for taking down SKT, finally getting rid of their demons there, but unable to beat a Freaka Freaks to make it to the finals where they want to be to take on Kingzone and really prove themselves at the top. Smeb, though, no fault of his own, played great in that top lane matchup, and again, a strong candidate throughout the season, and I think someone with the changes to the Conqueror rune is only going to get better.
Yeah, and second in solo kills, first in kill participation. So not only is he involved with the team getting kills, he's also just solo killing guys himself in that top lane. And I mean, we've seen this guy's potential on carry champions. He's adapted pretty well to these tanks when you're busting out something like a Scion. Got a deep champion pool. He's still, even when KT was slumping, you know, not performing at the best, he's still a guy who is a consistent threat in that top lane and deserves top 7.
And when you talk about Smeb and you mentioned that history that he's had, it was only about a year, 2 years ago that people were saying he is absolutely, without a doubt, the best top laner, and he might even be the best player, better than Faker, people were saying heading into the 2016 Worlds. We've seen that that pretty much is not the case, but definitely Smeb has proven himself to be one of the top talents in the world.